Welcome to the Being Curious Show. I'm Brian Mariani, founder of No Shift Own.
And I'm Leslee Wegleitner, publisher of Edge magazine. Our show is about curiously connecting teachers and seekers on a wide range of topics in a safe space. Few topics will be off limits, and we have some amazing guests to share with you.
Our intention is that our conversations will spark your own curiosity to create a life that lights you up and inspires you to be kind, thoughtful, open-minded to yourself and others.
We are on AM 950, Sundays at 2 p.m., and all podcast platforms. So, Brian, what are you curious about today?
Wow. Curious. I'm so curious today. I'm usually curious.
You're usually pretty curious.
I often am a curious person, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking back to us recording that and how sassy of a mood I was in. And so I was like, So, Brian, what are you curious about today?
Well, that was just after you had shared with me about your history as a someone who sounds very nice by their voice, I would say in a nice way. Maybe we'll leave that story for off the air.
Oh my gosh, you guys, there's a good story with this one.
Let's just say
college years. My voice is. What do you want to say? How do we say that without?
I just want to say that your voice engages people to heat up a little bit.
There you go. And then I bring it down and it's soothing.
That's right.
Right. It's all good. Leslie's like, what are they talking?
So what are we up to today?
What are we up
Kelly?
to today? Like we have magic, but you know what? That's what's so great about this show. We get to interview some of the most amazing people. And
absolutely.
Drinking game. Oh, we're also going to turn Kelly saying amazing into a drinking game sometime.
Yes.
We need to do that. But like, what a great word.
And it's a double drink when she says fantastic. That's fantastic.
And then it's a triple when I start channeling.
Yes. When she's channeling and she says the word magical. Well, this has just become magical.
Oh my gosh, you guys. I'm so sorry. Leslie's already bored. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, like this is a mouthful on introducing our guest because she's
got a lot.
No, I was going to say fantastic or amazing or magical.
I felt you saying it. That's why I interjected.
She's a cool chick. How about that? Okay.
She's great.
She's great. We have Leslee Wegleitner.
Correct.
Wow.
Yay.
Oh.
Okay,
for all our amazing listeners, this is a first.
This is
a Being Curious show first. That was perfectly said.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And we're done. No, I'm just kidding.
Your cadence was spot on, too. There wasn't a hesitation. It was boom.
I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Okay.
I think that has a lot to say about our guest, Kelly. I think she's already
it's all Leslie's fault.
Magic on you.
Right? Okay. Leslee is a transformational messenger. I mean, I just want to say that because there's so much that we could unpack just by saying you're a transformational messenger. She combines human design, which, by the way, everybody will let you know more about human design, and her unique light language called Fields and Harmonics of Sacred Light to support clients through transformative change. That's why you're a transformational messenger. I get it. Human design provides strategies to know oneself beyond the mind. Light language, as a vibrational expression, shifts energy to frequencies beyond human limitations. Combining these tools, Leslie's clients are able to understand and expand their relationship with self, as well as relationships with others, while living their own divine guided moments. Like, that's yummy right there. Mm-hmm. Like, right?
Yeah.
Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
We are so blessed to have you.
It was nice being here.
Yay. We're giggling. We're saying amazing. Oh, wait, just anyone that is doing a drinking game. There's amazing, there's magical, and I'm channeling. So, like, great. It's time to mix a drink.
That's
whatever it may be, right?
Right.
Mocktail, tea, coffee, water, good water. Better be good water, everybody.
Good water.
Good water is important. Okay. Mm-hmm. Leslee, what are you curious about?
Well, I lately, or in the last few months, have been going down the rabbit hole with emotions. So, with human design, we look at a body graph. And what's so fascinating to me, it's like 50% of the population has what you call an energy hub that is related to the emotions. but it's completely open, and so they don't really have a set way that they experience emotions. So you would say they're kind of more empathic. And then the other half have a very specific, defined way that they experience their emotions. So with transits and intertwining with other people, that may change. But without knowing self, they really don't understand how their emotions flow and how they get their clarity. Because if they're defined in that area, that's also their authority and their authority to make decisions. So it's really, really crucial that they understand how their emotions work, understand how they relate with them and with others. And then the other half, they amplify and distort. So if the ones that have these emotions very set, in a way that they experience them are off balanced, these poor people that are amplifying. So when you see this in relationships, it's very fascinating to observe, because usually the one that doesn't have the definition are the more emotional ones.
Got it.
Which you would think it'd be the other way around. So there's like this emotional wave that those that are defined in that center, and they experience a specific wave. Well, if you think of emotions, it can be our desires, our passions, there's a lot of energy behind our emotions, and the way we can get triggered and the way we respond with them. And then I just think, well, gosh, if everybody really truly understood how their emotions flow and with the true meaning behind the emotion, like not just a trigger, would this be a different place that we live? Even within a family structure.
Do you even have to ask yourself that?
Well, I'm just throwing it out there. But
checking.
Even within a family. So if you think of like one of the children has this completely open and everybody else is defined in that center and has a set way, that little child is amplifying everybody else's emotions in all their different ways that they do it without any clarity, and just probably the explosive one of the family. So they're the drama child, or, so I've just been really kind of curious in watching that develop, like within my grown children are out of the house, but just in their relationships and my relationships, my, immediate family, my siblings, and how we all interact. And then thinking back childhood, how that kind of all played out. So it's really
okay.
fascinating.
I gotta ask you. I'm like raising my hand. I'm gonna butt in. What got you started on this? Because I see all these little things and all these little that are tied together. And what got you? Because you dive deeper into human design. I think from what I know, people just kind of scratch at it. You've just like jumped in, head feet first.
I do. It's like the information is great, and it brings a lot of wisdom with it. But if you're not applying it and really diving into it, it doesn't really mean much.
Okay.
To really integrate it, you have to like play with it. So, and that's just kind of how I work. It's kind of like, okay, well, isn't that fascinating? And every experience for me, or every experience that I'm observing, is a learning tool.
Okay.
So, and then I always bring it back to, looking at that. Or if my clients are talking about what's going on with them, I have access to their chart. And so I'm looking at, well, how does that playing out? And isn't that curious? And so that's kind of what I do. And then just the ahas and the understanding of, it really is an intelligence. And I think with, everybody doing a lot of mind work and conditioning work, and I think this is the next evolution to that. It's like we have to know our intelligence behind the body and the emotions.
And how everything's tied together.
Yeah, and it's all tied together.
Okay, so tell us, taking a step back for any of our listeners that are like, okay, what is this human design thing she's talking about?
Okay.
Talk to us.
So human design is a navigational tool that is, it comes with, there's a body graph to it. And so you can actually see the energies or the frequencies that you carry, which are traits and strengths within your energetic or your mechanics.
Okay.
And so you can visually look at it and see things, but then there's like key words. There's a language to it, and those key words kind of unlock different aspects of self. There's a conscious and an unconscious that are always trying to merge and become one. So your chart is showing the unconscious and the conscious. So even though aspects you may not be completely aware of in the unconscious realm, or you you can kind of tap into it through the keywords.
Okay.
And then kind of experience it or watch for it or listen when people are saying, wow, you're so good at that. And you're like, oh, because it's an unconscious trait, so you may not know that that is a strength that you carry. But then after you hear it a few times, you kind of start pondering and going, oh, yeah, I guess so. So it really allows...
Do they play together, or are they at odds, or how do they coexist together?
Sometimes there is a little bit of a conflict between the two, but the ultimate is to integrate the two. So that's and when you're learning the two, so it's interesting because the unconscious is also related to like the soul, and the conscious is the personality. So if you look at it like that, with integrating the two bodies, so it's like bringing forth the beautiful wholeness of you.
Oh,
and
okay.
Understanding what that is. And so it's like a planetary imprint. So it's a birth date, that you get the information from. And then 3 months prior is the unconscious side. So it's kind of like when the soul comes into the body is how I look at it. Comes into the body like 3 months before the baby is born. Otherwise, we're kind of in the ethers. We're coming back and forth. And so when they come into the body and seats finally, then the imprint is when you're born, then those two are merging together and integration happens. So it's really fascinating to see because there's areas of the chart that it really gives you some great tools to kind of start with and to contemplate and go, oh, that's why that's happening. And even the aspects of self that we may think are not good, when you see the totality of it all, you realize it's perfect. It's the uniqueness of you. It's the individuation of, how you process emotions, how you interact with, like the ajna, like how you conceptualize or how you are inspiring to others or, your direction in life. Where is that coming from? How do you communicate is a big one with the throat. So, your specific way that you communicate.
Right.
So that's kind of...
So for people who are hearing these types of words and ideas for the first time, you keep referring to a chart. And could you talk about how that's created? I think some people or a lot of people could probably relate to, okay, if I give you my birth date and the city that I was born or some of those basic questions, astrologically, there's some meaning that comes from that. But that's not what I'm getting that necessarily is what you're doing. So how do you create a chart? Do you do it, or is it a machine or a software?
It's a software. It's a software program. So just as like astrology, you take the birth date, and then it calculates that 3 months prior to for you. So then in the chart, you have like the design or the personality side is going to be in black, where it's going to show the channels. There's channels and gates. So it's like the chakra system. You can see different hubs of energy. And then those hubs of energy are connected between gates and channels. If two gates are next to each other, it creates a channel, which creates the definition in the hubs. And then that definition creates a consistent way that you experience it. So each gate has 1,080 different ways you can experience it. So there's many, many levels to it. So it's not like just because you see a chart and you guys have the same definition, per se, you're going to be two completely different people.
Got it.
So because the gate could be in Mars, it could be in the moon, it could be conscious, it could be unconscious, it could be there's lines. It's pretty complicated, but that's why it differentiates so well. So it was, up against like the Enneagram. I think the Washington Post just posted that it was the in one over the Enneagram. So that was a big moment for us,
I'm sure.
human design people.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And tapping into, because we have about a minute left of this segment. Nope, you know what? I was going to say, like, what's your why? But, that's going to be a much deeper than a 1-minute conversation, so we really can't do that. Okay, so we are going to tap into just letting everyone know, how do they get a hold of you? Just want to have this kind of going right now. What's your website?
So my website is lesleewegleitner.com. So LesleeWegleitner. Wegleitner.
And you have a course coming up starting January 31st. What is
do.
that again?
It is Reclaim and Reset Yourself in Relationships.
Beautiful.
And you can find that under offerings on the website.
Beautiful. Okay, Brian, what's
Here we go.
Wax a little wisdom at our way.
We're going to keep diving in deep. We're having so much fun. For those listening to this on the weekends, hopefully Kelly hasn't, gotten you too drunk yet, or you haven't had too much
I've been good
tea
this
or water.
one.
You've been so good. I don't even think you've had
I've
much.
even shuffled papers and no one knew. Right?
But we're gonna dive in. Actually, I think we're gonna have a really special surprise for everyone.
Next
Leslie
segment.
may even do something live with us during the show. So stick around, and we will be back shortly with segment 2.
Woohoo!
This is Being Curious.
There we go.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. The Being Curious Show with Kelly and Brian. We are here with our very special guest, Leslie, and we had a lot of fun in segment 1. Really getting to know what human design is and what can be very, very deeply gained from that modality and your expertise, and how someone can go beyond just maybe what they could self-discover. It's kind of like putting some really detailed language to the process of self-discovery, and I think it can help define, refine, and guide what might feel intuitive. And it's kind of going beyond intuitive. It's kind of saying, well, this feels right, but why does it feel right? And I think this is an exceptional tool. And for our audience, I'd love for them to get to know you a little bit more, because we kind of have this picture of you being this expert in human design and this someone who's really adding so much value to the world. But you started out like we all did, as a baby and a child and a young person. And so what happened earlier on in your life that got you on this path? What were some of those things that you were curious about that ultimately led you here today?
Well, this journey really started quite young. I spent a lot of time alone, and I was fortunate. I grew up on the country, so I would go up on the hill and spend a lot of time, and I'd be digging for rocks. I liked agates. And little did I know that I was kind of being prepped for this light language work. So I was up there kind of in a meditative form, and they were working on my light body at that time to place these codes within self that someday they would come forward. And I was invited to do a channeling group, going fast forward here, but I had no idea. And then it just one day started coming out my mouth, and I was like, oh no. What is that? And at that time, this is 20 plus years ago, so it really wasn't like, oh, that's light language, and so I was kind of a closet, I would do it, and it felt good. It was really grounding for me. It made me feel very connected in all, facets, and information would come through. It would bypass my mind so that I could just really experience the frequencies coming through me. And so that's how it all started, and then it started coming through in drawing form, and from there I just have kept going with it. So it's interesting because it's also a language, like human design is a language that's specific in English, or a language, and light language is more of a frequency, more of a sound healing. And so people can get past the, like, what is she saying, and just really allow themselves to be bathed in the frequencies, is when the magic happens. So, and the mind can't decipher it. So the mind can't get in the way and saying, oh, that's not correct, or this isn't right, or, it just is. So they refer to it also as like a soul language. So it speaks directly to the soul. Yeah.
Beautiful. So Kelly, that's kind of teed up.
I was about to say you can't make that up. So
let's go for it.
Leslee has offered today to let us experience and observe and feel. I actually just keep seeing feel. Your process with light language. Let's tee it up. The studio, the airwaves, everything is yours. So just let us know what you have to do, and we'll get to experience you prepping for it, and then just let it flow, and then let us know when you're done. I think we'll know. And then we'll do a little recap.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's absolutely nothing you have to do. That's
even
the
better.
beauty. That's the beauty of it. You just allow and relax and receive. And then I'll just start speaking it. And what's also interesting is it really will be very individual, even though I'm speaking from just me, the essence of me, but how everybody receives it's going to be different. So, and however that experience is for you is perfect.
Beautiful.
So,
okay. I'd say the floor is yours, but everything's here. So you just go for it.
All right.
Oh my gosh, the room's filling up. Woo!
So I'm just going to take a couple of deep breaths, and you guys all do the same. Yada koshana mahiata. Ye yata ko maneata. Di mana hato o shaki hiitata. Ho manahi asa ko omahi anato ishata. Damani kato ka kia kon komana. Ti asata o shasha no mamahiata. Dakahita ko nahi kasha o yamaha. Do yamahiato goma. Takareketo namahi isha. Ti asato ko ota. Dakashine ka ota namaki nato ma. Ti sata yato ma. Ti patako onotahi. Ti shata ko nama. E namahiato. Tabasata. Ika shata orakima. Damano to nahi anato nama. Inato namana. Ishato kamana yita. Yasata no. Dabakata isha. Aka yita no ba. Iano no ki sata no ba. Ikataka ta onna ki. Dama yata orikisha. Dabaka. Takegeto oto no ne yasata ucha yitaka mahata. Ikata no ota imata yatako shashisha. Yabareke inato namahi hoto no ko mahaya. Parikoto no o yayasa. Tikihita no oko mahaha. Ishata okoko oma. Oh, yapaka. Yasata onata. Nino no mama. Tisha. Do. Tikita. Takoma na deita. Babaka no to. Tisha takona hiata. Tisatoro komata imaya. Tishata. 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 Everybody just take a deep breath again. And come back into the body. Yeah.
That felt amazing.
Good.
I felt like I was listening to a story, and my thought on thought was, how cool would it be, or I was present to, if I was sitting in a room with 1,000 people, that story could have been different and is different for 1,000 people. Mm-hmm. But I felt like I was listening to a story, and for me, it was an adventure, and it was upbeat, and it was a story. It was an exciting story. That's how it came through to me. And at the same time, I just saw the new Avatar movie. And so it was like, that's probably why it felt very adventurous to me, because they have that, that whole world is based on this life source. I forget what they call it, but the language it's a made up language in that world. So that's what happened for me. I loved it.
Wow. Now, I'm not trying to analyze what you said, because I just wanted to feel it in the vibration and the frequency. But when you come out and you switch from channeling to English, do you know what you said?
Sometimes I will. I'll get words, or impressions, and then I'll know. This experience, it just felt like it was kind of just sending peace and calming energy for everyone. But, that was my experience. It was very calming for me. So, it's like if you hear a story, or some people say, well, my grandmother came to me and she was, whispering in my ear, or some people go up to their, Pleiades and, they were hearing that grandmother talk to them. So it's so diversified, and others just are bathed and feel very bodily sensations, so for me it's always really grounding. I feel just like very grounded in the body. And in others, it's so varied because we're all so different, right? And what we need in the moment is what's going to be perfect for them.
And I noticed that you said the same thing 3 times at the end. Does that always happen?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, it just kind of clarifies for me. Yeah, kind of like a closing. So yeah, that's usually how I close out.
What's really interesting is that you talked about a number of people sharing that it felt like a grandmother talking to them. That's exactly what I experienced.
Okay.
It was of course, I've been in this conversation with you. I've been looking at you for more than half an hour now. But as soon as you started talking, it was this older woman telling a story, like a grandmother figure telling a story. That's exactly where it went for me. So when you said that, I was like, wow.
Yeah, there's like a council
it's just cool
of beings.
That, that type of connection could happen for a lot of people.
Yeah.
What's interesting is I felt a circle, and that we were like all on the ground, and we were all just kind of like nuzzling up to hear you tell a story. And I didn't know if it was a grandmother but I just got it, or male or female or whatever it was. It was just this sacred soul saying, "Come everybody together. I have something to share." And we all just kind of like and went like that, like, okay, right? That's how it felt to me.
Yeah.
So you said there was a circle of, it was very
energy.
inviting, right?
Yeah.
Very safe.
Yeah. Sometimes I have this council, and it's a lot of like sisterhood energy that's, galactic, that I'll see. And it's like grandmothers and, or just, neutral energies. Then they're kind of like around me as I'm doing this. So, yeah, it's just so many different experiences. It's always fascinating. It's always something new. The tones that come through are new. Depending on who I'm with, will kind of make it diverse. Change.
Right.
So that the initial language is always the initial language that I speak.
Okay. And
then from there, it kind of goes to different whatever's coming through. So, yeah.
It's just fascinating. I love it. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so what we're going to talk about in the next segment is how do we take the marriage of human design with the light language and put them together in this beautiful special gift. I mean, I think that to me is just fascinating. right?
Yeah, it is.
So just to tee everybody up, how did you have the idea to put the two together? Because normally I would think that they're very separate modalities that you can learn and play with, but you brought them together with your gifts and abilities.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of a taste about that.
Well, they both came in to me like 20-some years ago, and then life kind of happened. But I continued with the light language, and I kind of dropped off with the human design for a while. And then all of a sudden, I just got this strong, like 6 years ago, this nudge, like, you got to go back to human design. You got to go. And I was like, okay. And right away, I was like, this is so opposite. Like, how do these go together?
Right.
But they do.
They do.
They do.
And it's going to be really exciting. I can't wait to dive a little deeper. Okay, Mr. Brian, bring us out of segment 2.
Segment 2, that's a wrap. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll be back with segment 3. This is Being Curious. See you soon.
Woohoo!
We're back with giggles.
We're back with giggles, party people. Let's do this. Okay.
Here
Mr.
we
Brian,
go. Welcome
for
back. Segment 3. Thank you. Thank you for our first 2 segments. We got to do a live experience, which was awesome. Even in our little group here, it was very different for all of us. And also there were connecting fabrics that we all experienced. So
hold on, we got to ask Patrick. Patrick, what did you think about that?
Oh, there we go. Yes, let's ask Patrick.
It was definitely something. I thought it was pretty interesting.
Okay, well, that's cool. Way to put Patrick on the spot.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Patrick, was there any takeaway, Patrick, that you felt or that you want to share?
I'll have to get back to you about
Okay, that's perfect. If you patch in, we know why, because it came to you.
We have interesting. That's a good start. Thank you, Patrick. So really, what we'd love to do now, we want, if something happens out of this conversation, we want it to be that someone shifts their perspective or shifts their energy, shifts their thought into a better place. That's a win. But really, the ultimate win is someone actually has the courage through this listening to this conversation to connect with you. That's really what we would love to happen. And so for that person, help them understand what it actually looks like to work with you. I'm sure it's not just a singular thing, right? We're all aware of that. But just give us an idea of what it looks like to actually work with you.
Perfect.
Okay, yeah. So we start with the human design body graph, and we kind of deconstruct it a little bit, and we do it in stages. So there's kind of specific points that, depending, if they're having relationship issues, we'll just go there. And why they're continuing to have the same thing show up and show up and show up. Well, that will show in the body graph, because there's certain areas that are open that actually our energy is out, kind of reaching almost with an arm out, saying, I want this experience. I have half of this, I have half the channel, I have half the frequency, but I want to experience the other half. And so that's called an electromagnetic. And so really strong pull to the other person. So you keep drawing the same energy towards you. And it's supposed to be, that's what you're learning, that's what you're here to experience this lifetime. But then to take it a step further is to kind of understand, why that's happening, how you would like to change the experience so it's beneficial for you and it doesn't put you in a chaotic or emotional state, we'll say, or something, that you feel that you're doing wrong. And that's all mind, right? So that's the conditioning of the mind saying, you're doing something wrong, you're bad, it's your fault. And then when I bring into the light language, so after we kind of deconstruct that and get an understanding and an awareness, then we, with the light language, what that does is it kind of places these codes or these frequencies within your auric field that just kind of gently nudge potentials for you to experience it differently. So, I kind of the 3 Ps. So it's a patience, because you're bringing this awareness in and you want to understand what's going on. And that takes patience with self. And then you have presence. You can't have experiences without staying present and feeling all that the body's telling you, what the emotions is telling you, and really stay with that. And then the last is perseverance, because change doesn't just happen overnight. It just doesn't come about, quickly. So a lot of this stuff is so conditioned within us to have the same response or to have the same outcome. And if you really want to shift that, it takes, diligence of kind of repeating and reminding and saying, okay, here it is again. I'm going to stay present in the situation and then recognize, oh, I did better that time. This didn't happen or that didn't happen. And then all of a sudden, through perseverance, all of a sudden you're like, wow, I handled that completely different. But life is about learning and experiences, and it's always going to be coming our way. So it's not about not having the experience. It's about your perception of the experience.
Beautiful.
And the light language really, it helps so much because it just integrates the work with the human design. And it can calm your system down. So if you're like in an emotional state, you're in a relationship and things are just not going well for you, and you're in that state, light language can just get you back in the body in a calm state. Because that's another thing is in order for us to hear our guidance, our body has to be calm. I mean, that's why we hear guidance in meditation, right?
Right.
So we get into that space. So we want to be in that space all day long, or at least can access it. So when we're in this, drama or trauma or whatever you want to call it, that we can calm our bodies down, our mental minds, the emotional system, and just really stay present. And that's kind of, I find light language is able to help in that,
So, as I'm listening to you, I'm trying to put myself in the seat or the shoes of our listeners, and one of the best ways to build connection is through relatability. And I'm wondering if you could share maybe 1 or even 2 stories of someone you've worked with, what was going on for them, and how working with you helped them get to where they wanted to go.
Sure. So another area of human design is types. And so we all have a type, and there's only 5 types, but then there's a lot of diversity within the type. So if you put together, say, a generator and a projector, there's certain dynamics that are going to happen in the relationship that are positive, but then there's also going to be, there's a little bit of like conflict. The projectors are here to guide generators, and so that's a beautiful connection. But projectors can also be a little bossy. And they have to really wait for the invitation from the generator. That's how there's certain signposts within the body graph or the human design system too. But to live in alignment to their truth, they need to wait for the invitation and the recognition. So if they're just going off and guiding people, and especially if you're a spouse, right, and you have this person that's telling you, this is what you should do, and the generator's saying, I never asked you, and I'm really not interested, it's going to put a really strain on the relationship.
Right.
So, the projector's doing what they're supposed to be doing, but they're not waiting for the invitation. And the generator needs to respond to things. So the projector can ask the, questions so that they have a response to know what is the direction they are to take. So it's things like that can really help a relationship understand. So if the projector is going about it correctly, waiting for the invitation from their spouse to say, hey, would you help me out in making this decision? And then they start asking the generator questions, because that's what the generator needs to come to clarity is questions, because they have a sacral response. It's like this gut response that they can tap into, and then they know their direction. So that's one example. And another example is I was talking about the electromagnetics. And they can be tricky because if, there's one channel that's all about leadership, and if you come together and you both have half of the leadership, or there's one of the money channel, and if you both have half the money channel, then you come together, there's going to be arguments of who's going to delegate, where the money's going, how the money's being spent. But to understand that and then to recognize each individual as themselves and what that, means to them, and then come to the conclusion of when they come together. Because in a relationship, you create a third entity. So you don't really completely know that other person because you only know that person when your energy is with them. When they go off and they're in their own energy, they are their own person. It's really fascinating. So when you see two charts come together or two people come together and the energy they create is only when they are together. And when they go apart, they're their individual selves again. So that's why it's so important to understand who you are before you come into relationship so you know your part in that relationship. Otherwise, it gets all conditioned and mucked up and everybody's, responding and reacting to the other person's energy and not their own.
Okay, so January 31st,
yes.
The program that you're putting together, Reclaim and Reset Your Relationship. Who is your ideal person that you would love to have to reach out that would just get maximum benefit from this experience?
I'm finding women that are questioning their relationships.
Okay.
And to really have them bring it back to self and to recognize who they are. And if you want to make a change in a relationship, you have to change self first.
Right.
So if you are, a person that is, lack of self-worth, say.
Yep.
And so that partner is going to challenge that all day long because that's the energy you're spewing at them.
Correct.
And so unconsciously, they're just going to give it back to you. So once you can claim and identify, oh, this is what's happening, this is where I've been conditioned, and start that deconditioning process.
I was just about to say unpack that.
Yeah, you can unpack that, and then you can move forward in self. And it's so fascinating to watch that other person shift, and there's nothing that needs to be said, nothing that needs to be done. It just automatically happens because you've shifted the energy within self. And it's so beautiful how that works. When, it's so easy to project onto the other person. Well, they're a horrible person. They always do this. They do that. And when we bring it back to ourselves, and grow within self, then that's when it's just the magic happens within the relationship. It can really bring it to a new level. And the other partner doesn't really even know what happened.
Right. So tell us what the course is going to look like. So it's January 31st. Mm-hmm. I've signed up. What am I going to experience?
So we're going to get together 6 weeks.
Okay,
and it's in a small group setting, so 4 to 6 people in a group.
Is it virtual or is it in person? Okay,
yep,
beautiful.
This one is going to be virtual. And we're just going to take a segment of the chart and then go over, how that looks for you. And then there'll be, some interplay for the week or just observing, people that like to journal. You can do it in your own way. But, and then when we come back, we'll just kind of chat about what your experience was and, expand on that, listen to other people's experiences, get, wisdom through that. And then just every week we'll take a new topic and move forward. So
that's fantastic. I was going to use a different word, but I was like, no, that's fantastic. And I love the really diving deep on self.
Yeah.
Because that's going to help us in that's where I start going. The relationship with ourselves, but then also our relationships with our parents and our relationships with our siblings and then our relationships professionally and then our relationships with our intimate partners. And it's I just see it's starting with that hub and then having the little rays of the sunshine, being able to have those aha moments.
It all begins with us.
Right.
Right. So if we're experiencing the same experience through all these different relationships, then you kind of got to look at self and what is it that's, what has been conditioned within self or a pattern or a belief or something that's there that you want to move, that you want to change, but everyone around you doesn't necessarily want that to change because it might be benefiting them in some way.
Right.
So, yeah.
I want you to do a course for teens.
Oh.
Like my 11-year-old is always like, well, if that person did that and that person did that. And we're like, my beautiful one, you look in the mirror. The theme is you.
Well, and there's certain characteristics, it's called a split definition, that they do, it's automatic for them. That's what they do. They project on the other. So,
have you met my daughter? You must. Okay, you guys, we have Leslee here. How do people find you?
Once again, it's LesleeWegleitner.com, LesleeWegleitner.
Beautiful and fantastic and magical and amazing. You guys, if you're curious, please check out our website. January 31st, I think she's just going to open and enlighten a lot and connect a lot of dots for people that are kind of in that, kind of scratching their head in a relationship, which I think would be just, you insert whatever word, right? Being curious, Kelly and Brian, Brian and Kelly here with Leslee. Have an amazing one. See you next week.